On behalf of the International Council for Caring Communities, commonly known as ICCC, we want to thank the organizers for inviting us here to partake in this very important biennial, and also, personally for me, to come back to Costa Rica. I love this country, and I respect all that you've been doing. I also want to thank the organizers for providing translation, which makes it easier for all of us to at least try to understand what I'm trying to say this afternoon. I have the pleasure of presenting a very important person to you, and he is Dean Ertzgerschat. He was the jury chair of the 2014 Student Design Competition, and he will discuss the winners, and after that I'll come back and try to give you some ideas that we believe in, imagining the possible ideas that you may consider using in the future. Thank you so much. On to the video.
Do you invest in the younger generation, or do you invest in the older generation? The quandary for the young and for the working population is this: do you take care of the children, or do you take care of the parents? How do you make such an impossible choice? It is a question that pits the interests of the young versus the interests of the old. Here's what we know. New solutions are needed. Whatever worked in the past will not work in the future. New thoughts and new ideas are needed. New minds have to conjure up new solutions. And how do we build a society for all? The competition, A Society for All Ages, was born in 1994. That's 20 years ago. The 2014 competition was organized by the International Council of Caring Communities, together with UN Habitat, the United Nations Programme for Aging, Department of Economic and Social Affairs, Fortune Global Holdings, and the Association of Collegiate Schools of Architecture. Throughout the 20 years existence of the competition, the relentless driving force was and continues to be Dianne. The jury for the competition consisted of 4 highly qualified judges. They are Dr. Gisela Lurlang of Rochester Institute of Technology in Dubai, Cecilia Martinez-Leo, formerly the head of the New York office of UN Habitat, who now lives in Mexico, Philip Kennedy Grant, a noted architect and author, and the jury was chaired by me, and I am the dean of the College of Architecture and Design at New Jersey Institute of Technology. There were entries from 38 countries. There were a great number of entries. So how do we judge all these entries? In all the projects, we looked for the most engaging ideas, replicable solutions, and the best design solutions. It's now my distinct pleasure to introduce to you the winners of the 2014 Student Design Competition. The individual first prize goes to Anna Crocodina, who is from the Polytechnic of Bienal in Italy. So she came up with a poetic vision. The building is nestled into the slope, and it consists of a long ramp going past various levels, which are supposed to reflect different stages in life, from being young to being adult to being old. She thought that it would be possible to have an interaction between actors and onlookers that would encourage interaction, conversation, and an understanding of the metaphorical idea of aging as not being something negative, but something that offers a great deal to various generations. And the idea is that you kind of look back on life and what a grand journey it has all been. Individual second prize goes to Mayara Regina de Sousa from the Regional University of Blumenau in Brazil. This project is located in the state of Santa Catarina in the south of Brazil. Brazil, in fact, is the country with the sixth most aged population. How she approached this problem is to use higher educational institutions as the place where socializing and interactions between generations should take place. The notion will be that not only are there things to learn for old and young alike, but also the older generation would be able to impart what they know and talk about their experience in various professions for the benefit of younger people. The individual third prize goes to Anna Rady from the School of Architecture, Dublin Institute of Technology, Ireland. This project is located in Ashburn, a small Irish commuter town north of Dublin City. Usually, schools within this town were located at the very edge on cheaply purchased land. This scheme, however, tries to place the new school within the town core, so everybody has equal access to it. The project is called A School for All Ages, and the idea here is to weave together the generations through social interaction. Everything is geared not only for walking, but for wheelchairs as well. And it's ideal for young and old alike. The idea of how people should interact is that they would use this facility not only during the day, but in the evening as well. So this is a facility that would be open for very long hours. The specific solution is based on a flexible timber frame construction. The primary structural frame becomes the permanent infrastructure, whereas all the internal walls can be altered and rearranged at will in the future. The assumption is that there is no fixed plans, but as the requirements change, the walls can be shifted, and it will be in a constant state of flux. So this is an interesting building that is really not a building in the traditional sense, but a framework with movable walls that reflect what's going on in society and that reflect the interests of the population of Ashburn at any particular point in time. The individual honorable mention goes to Manvi Vyas from the University of Lincoln, United Kingdom. The project is located in Indore city in India. Everybody who is not an active and contributing member of society basically gets removed and lives a very sparse life, feeling unwanted and isolated. So her project is derived from a very traditional courtyard plan, and these little courtyards would then be connected through an internal street that is mainly in the shadow, so it's cool and breezy. She did an extraordinary amount of investigation into the light conditions, into the climatic conditions, and to seeing how you could generate breezes within these pathways, how you could provide passive solar design that decreases the amount of energy needed to make it comfortable to live in. She really aimed to, with this project, ask the big question to Indian society at large: what can we do with the older generation that provides dignity and opportunity and takes on the responsibility of of treating all people in a decent way. The individual honorable mention goes to Ahmed Abdel Samai Shana, University of Khartoum, Sudan. Sudan is one of the youngest countries in the world. Almost half the population is under the age of 15, and only 3% are over the age of 65. The median age is a mere 18. It clearly is not a really pressing problem in Sudan on how to deal with the older generation, representing such a small percentage of the total population. However, the idea of this project tries to propose that the place where old and young can mix is near a mosque and market. So the proposal is to create a space around the most important daily activities. Everybody has to eat, so they go to the markets. Everybody has to pray, so they go to the mosque. And the notion here was that there would be spaces where a learning can take place, where older generation people sit around and listen to stories and discuss politics, the issues of the day, and think through that, become relevant to the younger generation. The basic idea is that even though it is not a problem at this stage, the assumption is that over time, the median age will go up dramatically. The number of older people will increase proportionately. So I think it's important to honor this project because it looks so far ahead and proposes the notion any facility that unites young and old should be located where people go anyway. The first prize in the team competition goes to a team from Xi'an, University of Architecture and Technology in China. The team members are Jitao Bai, Ying Wang, Yang Wang, Siri Wang. This project is located in the textile city of Bienal in China. The reason that the team chose this particular city is that it was a vibrant industrial city in the 50s, and as time went by, the factories no longer became viable and stood around. And so they're trying to provide an opportunity for people to change their lives, and they think that the city of Xi'an is a typical case for this topic. And they're proposing to do a renovation of one of these older buildings. Their solution is based around 3 words: refresh, link, and copy. First, refresh. They found that there are very few activities and venues for people's activities not directly related to commerce. So they want to increase the number of public spaces and places where activities, unplanned activities, can unfold. And they believe by doing that, it will enliven the whole community. Their second proposition is the link. They want to establish a link between generations, and they want to make sure that the older people do not feel lonely, that there's a lot of interaction between the very young and the very old. At the moment, they contend there is little communication unless it's within the family, between the young and the old. So they want to propose a space for them to interact. So not only will this facility provide lots of opportunities for older people to be educated, to be entertained, to pass the time productively, but also to provide a great number of options for intergenerational interaction. And third, copy. By that I mean that they're coming up with a model that can be replicated elsewhere. And as I mentioned in the very beginning, one of our criteria was replicability. So their notion was that this same approach can be used in many cities in China and therefore have a great impact. And in China, according to them, people like living together as a family. It's a symbol of happiness. So their proposal is meant to make sure that everybody, regardless of age, has a good chance at happiness. The second prize in the team competition went to a team from the University of Pristina in Kosovo. The team consisted of Dafina Schlaku and Laura Schlaku. The project is located in Jakova, which is a small city of 96,000 inhabitants in Kosovo. The interesting approach they took is instead of looking at statistics, they actually went to the street and talked to the elderly inhabitants within that city. And they asked them what would make their life more happy. And they asked them what things they would like to do. Many of them responded that they were accustomed to work, particularly working on their crafts. Older people also wanted to be near their family and have spaces where they can spend their leisure time productively. And of course, they wanted access to healthcare. From these conversations, they arrived at a concept they refer to as the happiness formula. And what they proposed was to create a series of spaces that would correspond to these needs. So they want to put together housing, places of work, recreation, and public spaces, and make all of these spaces accessible, make them comfortable, and make them secure. The idea is to have a building where older people are always kept active, working on their crafts. All of this would be accessible to the public, and particularly to the younger generation. They also tried to make sure that the building is sustainable and that the outside areas, too, were part of the solution. So they want to, through landscaping, comfortable street furniture such as benches, and make it possible to enjoy the outside and feel very much included in the fabric of the city of Jakova. The third prize in the team competition was won by a team from two different universities. It's the University of Rome, Tor Vergata in Italy, and the Technical University of Munich in Germany. And the two team members are Max Di Rassa and Corina Sinovia Weber. This project is located in the Nuovo Salario neighborhood in the periphery of Rome. The basic idea is to provide a series of modules in which interactions between older people and younger people can take place. These are modules 6 meters by 6 meters that can be arranged in infinite numbers of ways. The basic premise is that these old and young units can be configured to enable children to be looked after by temporary grandparents. Other old and young units, they focus on activities like music, or reading, or gardening, and talking to the older generation about their experiences in life. The notion was to scatter these self-organized units in the neighborhood, either by themselves or in combination, to promote the development of a self-conscious and active community of older people that feel fully integrated and useful to the community. An honorable mention in the team competition went to a team from the Harbin Institute of Technology in China. The team members were Yan Jiayu, Cheng Zhao, Ji Wenfei. This project is based in the city of Yichun in Heilongjiang province. So what did they suggest? They suggested an agricultural community within the city that would enable older people to be healthy while raising food. They're proposing an eco-agriculture that would focus on life with slow activities. And slow activities would include urban farming. Their proposal includes not only the making of food, but also a marketplace where food is sold. Their proposal has the conjecture that if people make and sell food, they're going to be valued by the community. They will enjoy what they're doing, and at the same time, they become valuable members of the local community. Looking at these solutions, I am very optimistic. I think looking at this cadre of young designers, I believe that the future is in good hands. I'm confident that none of the competitors will forget this experience. I believe that all the competitors throughout the world will keep in mind the lessons learned in this competition, and that all will strive throughout their professional careers to create a society for all ages.
I hope that you enjoyed listening and getting some insights to the designs that have been proposed. A background for that for a moment is that this particular competition is the only one in the world that combines UN Habitat, the Program of Aging, and it is also juried by both architects and gerontologists. So the jury perspective is definitely heavy on program for older people as well as design. And up to now, there are over 8,000 students around the world that have participated in over 50 countries. Now back to where I'm going to work, I think. I can figure out how to do this. Success. Okay. We're often asked what our mission is and what we should be doing and what we are doing. And I'm going to very quickly go through the next 3 slides because I want to get into the ideas that I'd like to leave with you so we can have time for discussion. And also we have provided a little folder outside. It looks like a business card, but as designers, I'm sure you're curious and opened it up, and it is a flyer of all the information that what we do. So it's in one piece, so you don't have to take notes or think further about what we're doing. Most of this we've discussed up to now, and I think one of the emphasis of XIII from the very beginning was that we involve private sector and governments, academia, in all our programs around the world. This is going on. What do we actually do? I think that the answer is we stimulate and identify successful strategies, creative solutions, and cross-sectorial dialogues. We were talking yesterday about the whole idea of working together. Well, when we're talking about cross-sectorial dialogues, we're talking about various ministries of a community, a holistic approach to whatever is going to take place. So it's our emphasis of getting everybody involved, whether it's from bottom up or top down. And one of our opportunities being at the UN is a lot of your ideas are very wonderful and they really should be done, but the political will to get them done is the issue. So that is one of our major forces, is to get and develop political will. And the mainstreaming the impact of longevity factor. No one wants to talk about aging. It's not a very positive word in many languages or people's minds, but if we talk about the fact that there is a whole area of which all of us go through from childhood to later life, and that is the longevity span, the longevity factor. So in that we have zeroed in on the built environment, not in pensions and the whole other areas of social needs, but just on the ICT and the built environment. These are the areas in which we specifically work, and they're no particular order, depending on what we've been requested to do. And you can see that they are quite broad. This is sort of a summary of What we are, and there is a statement, many of you know, consultative status with the UN is about 2,000 NGOs around the world that are able to make a statement in the General Assembly and during the process of what's going on at the UN. And we're very proud to have been asked to be one of them. The areas that we deal with: conferences, competitions that you've just seen, coordinating, collaborating with public and private partners, and pushing the envelope for solutions and stimulating new ideas. Dean Richat mentioned the various people at the UN were involved with, and there's a list. What wasn't in it at that time was the World Health Organization. This gives you an idea of the map of where we have spoken or been asked around the world. It certainly has been a travel. What are the areas that we want to talk about? One is the innovation of culture, the village of happiness, and benefiting from the age quick, and thinking out of the box. And let's see if we can get some ideas. This is Costa Rica at the moment. And as you see, Costa Rica doesn't have a major aging problem. But boy, it's coming fast. And that's what the age quake is all about. Preparing countries, especially the developing countries that do not have safety nets and preparation for this population change, which is happening faster than it did in the developed countries. We wonder what cities have to offer, and often we forget that there are a group of people that have been shut-ins depending on cultures, and so we've emphasized a little bit on the area of dementia, and which one of the areas is Alzheimer, which is the fastest growing pandemic in the world. It is one that we don't know how to cope with from many, many avenues, either from health or from urban design. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that are happening. We happen to have a colleague who believes, and he wrote a book, I'm Still Here, by John Zalek, and he arranges for clients, not patients, clients taken into movie theaters, and they come in not knowing where they're going, how they're getting there, where they're sitting, and all of a sudden they see a movie they remember 50 years back, and they can tell you all about the stars, their background, and all of a sudden they come to life. And having the popcorn there reminds them when they went to the theater, and you can see a resident coming in with a caregiver. The areas I think we should look at from our perspective in the design world is museums, theaters, movies, entertainment centers, bookstores, cultural centers, religious centers, and the baby that I love, which is shopping malls. What do we do with grandma when we want to go shopping and there's no one to leave her with? One. Two, what do we do if someone really needs an outing? Can we use the facilities that are in a shopping mall? In many parts of the world, especially in the States, the shopping malls open at 6 o'clock in the morning. The shops are closed. And it is where they all meet and work and walk. And the retailers got very, very smart, and they put up kiosks for coffee and donuts. So they're making money on the walking of the elderly. So this is one aspect. The other is there's no reason why we can't have a happy center, which is where grandma can be left, enjoying other people and taken care of while you run off for half hour, 10 minutes or whatever, but at least she's gotten a chance to get out and you have a chance to get away also into another environment. I think it's something we should be looking at and seeing how we can do. Here's an idea that is working. In New York, MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art, and also the Louvre are preparing and provide a program for Alzheimer clients. And what they do is they do the day that the museums are closed to the public. There has been focus groups on a series of paintings with a group of Alzheimer clients, and many of the paintings they had absolutely absolutely no response to. They couldn't care less. And all of a sudden, there are 3 or 4, and they started arguing about whose color the shoe is, and she's going up a mountain, or there's the castle, and they haven't spoken in 2 years. So it is something that we should consider. Staff are trained for that, and now it's at the Louvre, it's in Australia, and it's also in Spain, and it's growing rapidly. But it's an idea of using museums for other than ourselves. This is an area that I think is a wonderful story. It's a poetry center, and you say, what are you doing with a poetry center and why? Okay, the wife of the gentleman that's standing told the organizers, leave him home. He doesn't know anything, he doesn't know where he is, there's no sense to take him out anywhere. So the organizer said, please take him along with you. And when you get to the poetry center, read his poems. He's a world famous poet. The wife read the poem, and all of a sudden, didn't know where he was. He was totally in a dimensional body model. And all of a sudden, as you see, he got up because everybody applauded. Everybody recognized him. And for those few moments, he was somebody. And I wonder if we take these ideas and we design them both in the built environment and in our socialization. I believe I'm talking to the converted on this, but I'm going to just totally go through 2 slides. And that is the WHO Aid-Friendly Cities work that has been done. And what's interesting on this is what they did is a bottom-up survey. We talked about surveys yesterday, and I learned a great deal from them. And this is, they asked the caregivers and the older persons, what were the barriers in cities? And from those, they believe they were in 32 countries, and 22 countries in the 33 cities, I'm sorry. From here, I'm having trouble reading them. And the results were very interesting because the World Health, they thought the first thing they would be worried about is health. What are they worried about first? Building spaces. And it goes through, and the next to the last item is health. So we don't really read the older population correctly. We're making a lot of assumptions, so we have to go back and do some homework. But this at least is helpful. And ICCC does not like the name age-friendly cities, and we use the name around the world, user-friendly, because these items are important to every age, to a toddler, to an older person as well. So I think that we just need to change the name in our thinking. Our cities should be user-friendly on all these items. This is a question I was asked last night. What is the Village of Happiness? Okay. In 1993, I had the honor of being asked to go to Japan. And when I was there, I went to Kobe. And in Kobe, up on the mountaintop, is this Village of Happiness. And it is really built by the city for its own clients, for its own members, for its population. It is not a tourist spot, but it really is Disney's world without Disney. And it has facilities from sports to health. And the exciting thing about this is that people want to go. Now, what do they want to go to do? Okay. Those of you that can imagine a city block, the size of a city block is a rehabilitation center up on the mountain. Next to it, I think, is the most brilliant thing in the world, is a respite hotel. And it's for caregivers, for them to go for 3 or 4 days. They get a couple of seminars. There are design model rooms of their houses in Japan, how they can adapt them to make it easier to care for their family member. And also, the most brilliant thing is they don't have a gift shop in the hotel. They have what is called a solution shop. So if you need something special to solve a problem, you buy it right there. So it is a wonderful interactive aspect of learning in the process of getting a little bit of a vacation. And also it has a 60-year, which is a silver college, up on the mountain. And why families love to go, because you have from archery to Olympic pools to camping up on the sites. There are about 87 sites up there. It's about 15 minutes by bus from in the city. And many of you maybe remember the earthquake in Kobe. This was built just before that, and during the earthquake, they put temporary housing up there. And what they found is when they mixed people between the mentally ill and older and younger, all of the ages benefited and they were not afflicted. The mentally ill were not as mentally ill, and it went on. And so they learned from each other, and for some reason, some special fire took place, and they all were happy. When they had to go back into the normal life, nobody wanted to break up. So they had a new set of problems as setting them back into whether it be normal housing. So maybe that's an idea we should be thinking about in the future. Let's see. This is what you have the poster outside. We rushed the printer, and you have the brand new competition, which is starting now for 2016. And what we're excited about this one is that all of you can outreach to your colleagues to have students participate around the world. And the entries do not have to be to us before the September 2015. It will be projects due on the 1st of December, jury in December, and then awards are given out in February at the Commission for Social Development. Plus, they will be at Habitat 3, which is the largest summit of UN Habitat. Where it's going to be right now, the contract hasn't been signed, so I can't tell you specifically, but it will be in early 2016. This is an idea of where the students come from over the years. And we started in Costa Rica. We came here in 1994, and the idea for this competition began at the University of Costa Rica. So I'm delighted to be back home. I just wanted to give you an idea of two projects that were different than the ones that won. These won way back. This is a favorite of mine. It's a student from the Urals in Russia, and is a 2004 winner. And what he's combined is two needs: an orphanage and senior facilities of housing. Both need family. And being close at an annex, they have an opportunity to be part of each other. And I think we should kind of think of that when we have the opportunity of deciding where we put these buildings. Sometimes it's not in our ability to make that final decision, but sometimes we can at least suggest it. And this is the annex. You can see the buildings. The interesting thing about this is this student could not come to the United States to get his $10,000. He couldn't get a visa. So we were going to Shanghai for the Asia exhibition, and he came to Asia and got his award there, and the Undersecretary for SCAT gave it to him, and was very, very pleased to have a student that he could give an award to as well. This one I picked because I think it's something we talked about yesterday, and it is from China, and it's protecting the traditional lifestyle. We've been talking about historic sites and how we keep the crafts going. Well, this is a particular project that uses a ruin and builds around it and keeps traditional aspect of older people and younger people exchanging crafts, and the crafts keep going on. I know the plan is difficult to see, but it gives you an idea at least. And all of these are available in our retrospective, which is the next slide. We have done a retrospective from 1994 to 2005, and that is online of the students. Now, this interesting part of this retrospective, it is not the projects that were important. We asked 3 years ago the students that participated, how did the competition influence their lives? And their concepts and what happened to them is what's in the retrospective, besides a very blurb on the project. The music that we were talking about, we decided that we would try to influence the UN in new ways, and UNESCO, as you know, is the cultural center of the UN, and we decided we would try to do something with social and economic issues and find, if we could, around the world, projects that exist today that influence 5 areas: sustainable communities, trauma after earthquakes and so forth, physical and mental health as usual for music therapy, facilitating learning, and the last one, which is the one I'm most proud of, is facilitating peace building. And there's a very good project in there, as shortly give you a brief on it. It's a project of a group that went into Colombia, up in the hills where the rebels are. They got the okay from the elder, which you always do going into a village, as you know. They got the okay from the mothers with the children. They came in with instruments, they had instruments, and everything was going well. And all of a sudden, the rebels come in with their guns. And they wanted the instruments down, and they didn't want anything to happen. And all of a sudden, the very smart organizer turned and said, if you want to be in this video, which is what they wanted, then you give us your gun and we give you a musical instrument. And they did. They wanted to be on the camcorder. So that was the beginning of a peace building using music as an exchange. And I think it's a wonderful story. We were talking about where do we work. This is a room in the UN, and we do not do the large meetings that we did years ago. We do only the ambassadorial high level, which are closed meetings, because that goes back to what I mentioned before. Our purpose is to influence the decision makers, the political arm, to get what you want done if we can. And this is Windsor Castle. The Queen does live here. This happens to be the Vicar's Hall. It was originally the Queen's Library, and it goes back to 1633. And I just flew from London through New York to here, and the last consultation we did was on digital innovation and investments, health from an ICT point of view, and rehabilitation medicine, not the bones, which is hard for the doctors that came, because we said we're not talking about rehabilitation of bones, we're talking about urban design. And they had to put the other hat on, and it was very effective with 2 of the UN agencies. This is like speaking to the converted, but I thought I'd put it together. What we think is important in design, and you've gone through all of this. And the important factor, I think, is that there is a need for us to be looking at ICT, information communication technologies, not assisted living, assisted technologies, in our planning and urban planning. So grandma doesn't have to go to the clinic to get her pulse taken. She can do it on a mobile phone that her son gave her to make a phone call. All this exists, but how do we get it into the system and move it forward? Also chairs. Older people, and I see all of us spend more time in chairs than we really realize, and they're relatively uncomfortable. So I think that we have to look at the sizing of them and also related to the culture itself. A Chippendale chair in the middle of China is not exactly something a 90-year-old is going to feel comfortable in, even though the size may be right. So I think we have to consider design, culture, and space. This is a main street, and it is in a nursing home. And the object here is, can you get a family to come to visit grandma? Usually they come once and they don't want to come back. Why bother? You know, she's not going to talk to us anyway, etc. So if you can make the main street an interesting main street with a movie house or a theater or some place that they can play games, etc., it changes the milieu as well as for those that live there. Assisted living and nursing homes, I think, should be looked at again. Many of you are doing so. So this is nothing new, it's just maybe a new emphasis with the numbers that are going to be so huge. This was a fun thing. I went to China and wanted to make sure that they were doing something in health with technology. So I asked them if they would deal with the Connect box. I knew that from my grandchildren. So the object is that they are now slicing apples and pineapples in the rehab areas using video from open source and the Connect box. So I think instead of telling a patient you've got to bang this drum for 20 times, and they're not going to do it after a while, that we can use the new social media and what's out there in new ways. And that's what this is trying to suggest. This is what you also know in the socialization, which I think is, we often forget, where people can sit and talk. Many of the best ideas are done in hallways. And you lean against a wall and you talk to somebody and you are. These are meant to be in, this particular one is in the CCRC, and it gives a comfortable space where people can get off the highway, the corridor, and sit. The other picture is self-identity. I possess, I belong here, this is mine. And I think we need to think of the outside of the room as well as the inside of the room. This is not necessarily for a patient with dementia, but it gives a sense of ownership. This is their front porch going into their room. If it was an Alzheimer's patient, you would put probably a picture up of the family, etc. You will know those techniques, but that is part of that idea. Okay, I want to leave a few minutes for questions, and therefore, these are the questions I'm posing for you all. And I think this is where we have to go. What blueprint is needed now in the 2050? What new mindsets and paradigms are essential? How will public policies enhance population change? Will population shifts such as gender, immigration, influence design? One other area we often find men are not being researched as they age for what kind of design they wish. A lot of the spaces we design are female-oriented from college days. So there's another area to be looked at. What role will social media and the internet play? What role does technology play? And tourism, this is a very important area. Many people have gone to a special place where they got married, and if they're still married 25 years later, they'd like to go back to celebrate, but they can't go up the stairs, they can't get into because of steps and so forth. Have we looked at resorts in the sense of people returning and their feasibility, which is also disabled, but I'm just talking about it from a tourism point of view. What new visions are required? What new visions are required for building a society for all ages, and what factors need to be considered for an intergenerational relationship? It doesn't have to be in a building, and you saw from many of the projects, it can be anywhere, on a park, on a road, going into a temple, be as it may. This is a quote from Ambassador Alvarez, was the ambassador for aging, and she was at the UN from the Dominican Republic. She had white hair when she was 30 years old, and she drove the whole area of the International Day of Older Persons, the conventions, and so forth. And this is her quote, and I'd like to leave it with you. We need a new awareness that ability, not chronology, is the measure of how much people can contribute to society. And I believe the rest is up to us. Thank you so much.
Gracias a la profesora Dianne Davis. Tiempo de preguntas, damas y caballeros. Professor Davis, for some question, you can. Yes. Bueno, si tienen alguna pregunta, por favor nos levantan la mano. Aprovechemos, tenemos el servicio de traducción, así que no hay ningún inconveniente. Quien hable inglés lo puede hacer en inglés, y si no en español, y le hacemos la traducción. Vamos a ver. Aprovechemos a nuestra expositora. Al lado de ella tenemos también micrófonos por si alguien quiere desde ese costado participar. ¿Tenemos alguna pregunta? A ver. Ok, tenemos dos. Comenzamos entonces allá atrás, ya luego venimos acá. Bienvenido, lo escuchamos. Adelante, está el micrófono, por favor, para que lo podamos escuchar fuerte.
In English.
Okay.
Do you think that urban agriculture is a good possibility, option to include, to include all the population in the new cities?
I'm sorry, would you repeat the first part of that question? I didn't get it.
Do you think that urban agriculture is a good option to increase or to make more population into the cities? Urban sustainable agriculture.
Oh, I'm sorry, sustainable agriculture. It's my
Right.
not your speech.
Okay.
It is working. There are parks in various parts of cities, green spaces, and in the 2012 competition, there were about 3 projects which were based around the green space within the urban design. Does that answer your question?
Por aquí tenemos otra pregunta. Another question, Professor Davis. Bienvenido.
Thank you. I'm wondering about the sustainability of the projects. Thinking that in Costa Rica, what we have shelters are usually sustainable with donations. Is there a different source that you could count on?
Would you repeat the question, please?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No problem. I'm wondering about the sustainability of the projects. Is there any other way different than donations that you use, for example? Because that's what's happening in Costa Rica. Usually they depend only on donations.
I have to backtrack on that because there's a misunderstanding. Not on your question, but in the reality of this. This is purely an educational exercise. The sustainability and its donation and how it's going to be built is not part of the competition at all. Our objective is to have more future architects involved in being aware of aging issues when they are professional and they're out. And we have very purposely come back from the fact that we don't do any building. If the student wants to go back and build with the university and so forth, we will work with them. And I believe after all the years, I think there was only one. And that started because it was a church that it was sort of, if you do this, we will build kind of thing, but it had nothing to do with us. Because then we feel architects will be out of business, and therefore we couldn't continue. Our objective is to prepare the next generation of architects. Does that answer your question? Yes. Thank you.
¿Alguna otra pregunta por ahí, damas y caballeros? Aprovechemos a cada uno de nuestros expositores. Esta es una oportunidad de verdad única de tener este contacto directo con ellos. ¿Alguien más que quiera preguntar, hacernos un comentario? Allá se levanta una mano, por favor, Estefanía. Nos levanta la mano de nuevo para que nuestra compañera pueda verla. Bienvenida, la escuchamos.
Hi, well, many of your projects are in development countries. How you know Costa Rica is still a development country. Are there any solutions that you could give us some ideas for these projects?
I believe many of these projects could be helpful to Costa Rica, and there are students here in Costa Rica that participated in the competition. So I'm not in a position to know the local scene, but I think the ideas, if you carefully look at them over the years, and especially the last two, you will find things that apply very, very well to your needs here. And most, as you see, most of ours are, the winners land up being both developed and developing countries. The majority of the students that come in are developing countries. In the last one, there were 142 universities and over 800 students came in. But every university can only send 3 projects for jury. So all of the students within the university that are working on these projects go back to their research, and then they will start, because the people want to know what happened. So you're beginning to get the information into the municipality and into the process, which is really what our major goal is. Does that answer your question? You have homework then, look at the various ones.
Bueno, a ver si alguien más quisiera preguntar. Una última pregunta para la profesora Dianne. Bueno, creo que todo ha quedado muy claro. Lo que sí tenemos para ella es un fuerte aplauso para agradecerle.